The air shattered with a sickening crash. Flames began to lick the metal. "Call 911 now!" "For God's sake, someone call an ambulance." Boom! The panicked shouts of the crowd melted into a single blur of noise. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the power of small moments to change lives, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to Kindness True Stories. Also, tell us in the comments, where in the world are you watching from? The afternoon sun glared off the skyscrapers of Chicago, casting long, sharp shadows across the bustling streets. It was the kind of crisp, clear day that felt at odds with the grinding fatigue in Jack Riley's bones. He'd just finished his morning shift, stocking shelves at a grocery store in the West Loop, and was walking towards the L train. The weight of his second job, night, security at a warehouse, already looming over him. His thoughts, as always, were a tight knot of calculations. Rent for their cramped apartment in Pilsen was due, Liam's shoes were getting too small, and the utility bill had been higher than expected last month. It had been 2 years since Sarah passed, 2 years of this relentless, lonely hustle, of pretending to his 7-year-old son that everything was okay, that the mac and cheese dinners were a fun choice, not a financial necessity. The memory of her laughter, the way she could dissolve his stress with a single touch, felt like a photograph fading in the sun. His world had narrowed to the space between survival and his son's smile, a fragile bridge he crossed every single day. The city's noise, the rumble of the L, the honking taxis, the snippets of conversation, was just white noise to the soundtrack of worry playing in his head. He was crossing an intersection near the river when the sound cut through everything. Not an explosion, but a horrific metallic screech that seemed to tear the air itself, followed by a deep resonant crash. Heads turned. A few blocks down, a sleek, silver Tesla Model S had veered off the road, mounted the curb, and slammed into a concrete planter box with catastrophic force. For a heartbeat there was silence, then chaos. The front of the vehicle was accordioned, and almost immediately a wisp of grey smoke snaked from the mangled hood. The smoke thickened, turning black, and then the first orange lick of fire appeared, hungry and swift. People on the sidewalk stopped, phones were raised, voices rose in panicked shouts. "Call 911! Is anyone inside?" The fire spread with an alarming ferocity, fueled by the high-voltage battery. Blue and white electrical sparks began to dance and crackle, ominously around the undercarriage, a terrifying electric sizzle joining the roar of the flames. The car's doors didn't open. No one emerged. A collective paralysis seized the onlookers, a mix of horror, fear of the unknown danger of an electric fire, and the sheer, shocking speed of it all. Jack froze too, but his inertia was different. It wasn't fear that rooted him, but a flood of involuntary memory, a different fire, a different scene. From his past life as a volunteer firefighter in a small Indiana town, before Sarah, before Liam, before the city. The training, long buried under layers of grief and exhaustion, surfaced with crystal clarity. Electrical fire, lithium-ion battery, thermal runaway. You have minutes before full engulfment and toxic fumes. His eyes locked on the car. Through the smoke-fogged rear window he saw movement. A small, dazed figure in the back seat, slumped against the window. A child. In that instant, Liam's face superimposed itself over the scene. Without another thought, without a single calculation of risk, Jack dropped his worn backpack and started running. "Hey man, don't. It's gonna blow!" someone yelled. He didn't hear it. The heat hit him first, a solid wall that stole his breath. The smell was acrid, a chemical stench mixed with burning plastic. The sparks snapped and popped near his feet. He reached the rear passenger door, the handle hot to the touch. He yanked it, locked. He could see her clearly now, a girl, maybe 9 or 10, with wide, terrified eyes, a trickle of blood on her forehead. She was fumbling clumsily at her seatbelt, her movements slow and confused. Jack made a hammer of his fist, wrapped it in the sleeve of his jacket, and struck the window. Once, twice, the tempered glass webbed but held. On the third blow, it shattered inward. He cleared the shards, reached in, and found the manual lock, his fingers burning. The door released. The influx of fresh air made the flames surge. "I've got you!" "Sweetheart, I've got you!" he shouted, his voice rough with smoke. He leaned in, unsnapped her seatbelt, and hauled her out, her body limp and light in his arms. He stumbled back just as a section of the battery pack vented with a loud whoosh, sending a jet of flame and blacker smoke billowing into the space where they'd just been. He carried her to the relative safety of the sidewalk, about 50 feet away, his heart pounding a frantic rhythm against his ribs. He knelt, laying her down gently. She was conscious, crying softly, clutching his arm with a surprising strength. My dad," she coughed. "It's okay, you're safe." "Help is coming," Jack said, his own hands trembling now that the adrenaline was seeking an exit. He checked her over. Aside from the cut on her forehead and what looked like a possible wrist injury, she seemed miraculously intact. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing rapidly closer. Within minutes, the scene was a kaleidoscope of flashing lights, fire trucks, ambulances, police cars. The firefighters descended on the blazing Tesla with specialized equipment. Paramedics took the girl, whose name he heard one of them say was Ilara, from his arms and onto a gurney. Jack gave a brief, stammering statement to a police officer, his throat raw from smoke. As they loaded Ilara into the ambulance, a man arrived, not in a limousine, but in a black SUV that screeched to a halt. He was tall, with an air of command that cut through the chaos, but his face was ashen, etched with pure terror. He rushed to the ambulance and Jack heard the sobbed reunion, "Daddy," before the doors closed. The man, the billionaire Alexander Thorne, turned as the ambulance pulled away. His eyes scanned the crowd and landed on Jack, who was still standing there sooty, his jacket ruined, feeling suddenly exposed and very aware he was going to be late for his next job. Thorne walked over, his stride urgent. You pulled her out." It wasn't a question. Jack just nodded. Thorne's composure, the powerful aura, seemed to crack for a second. He grasped Jack's shoulder, his grip firm. "Thank you," he said, the words thick with emotion. "I don't have the words. What's your name?" "Jack Riley?" "Jack Riley," Thorne repeated, as if committing it to memory. He pulled out a wallet, but Jack instinctively put up a hand. "No, sir, please, I don't want money." "Just glad she's okay." Thorne studied him, seeing the worn edges of Jack's clothes, the fatigue in his eyes that went beyond the afternoon's ordeal. He nodded slowly, respecting the refusal. "Then at least let my driver take you wherever you need to go, and I'll be in touch. This is not over, Jack." A man in a suit handed Jack a crisp business card with only a name and a number, etched in simple black. Jack, too dazed and polite to refuse again, accepted the ride. The silent journey in the luxurious SUV to the warehouse felt surreal, a bubble of opulence in his gritty reality. He worked his night shift in a haze, the smell of smoke still clinging to him. The next few days passed with the usual struggle. He told Liam a simplified version, making it a funny story about getting dirty, hiding the danger. He worried about the medical bills for the minor burns on his hands, treated at a free clinic. Life, it seemed, would simply absorb this extraordinary event and grind on. Then a week later, a formal envelope arrived. Inside was a handwritten note from Alexander Thorne, inviting Jack and his son to dinner at his home in Lincoln Park. The tone was warm, insistent. Feeling utterly out of his depth but unable to think of a graceful way to decline, Jack took Liam, who was vibrating with excitement at seeing a real big house. The Thorne residence was not a house. It was a masterpiece of modern architecture, but inside it was surprisingly warm. Ilara, her wrist in a cast, greeted Liam shyly, and the two kids were soon absorbed in the game. Thorne was different away from the crisis, gracious, direct, and a keen listener. Over a meal that Jack secretly calculated was worth his month's rent, Thorne asked about Jack's life, his work, his past. Jack, disarmed by the man's genuine interest, found himself speaking about Sarah, about his old firefighting days, about the constant balancing act of being both mother and father. He spoke not for pity, but simply because, for the first time in years, someone powerful was actually listening. Thorne nodded thoughtfully. At the end of the evening, as a car was called to take them home, Thorne stood with Jack in the grand foyer. Jack, you gave me back my world. You asked for nothing. But I cannot simply return you to yours, not without trying to mend the parts that are broken. He placed a folder in Jack's hands. This is not a check. It is a proposal. My company has a security division. We need a director of emergency preparedness and safety. Your background, your instinct, your character, they are exactly what we need. The salary is listed there. There's also a fully funded scholarship trust for Liam, for whatever school he chooses, whenever he chooses. And, Thorne added, pointing to a set of architectural blueprints, this is for a new community center in Pilsen, focused on youth programs and single-parent support. I'd like you to be on the board, to help guide it. It will be named after Sarah, if you'll allow it. Jack opened the folder, his eyes scanning the numbers. The salary was life-altering. The scholarship was a future free from a specific grinding fear. The community center was a legacy. He looked up, his vision blurring. This is too much. It is a fraction of what you've given me, Thorne said firmly. It is an investment in a man who runs into fires while others run away. It is a chance for you to thrive, not just survive. For Liam to thrive. Say yes, Jack. Jack looked over at Liam, who was laughing at something Alara said, his face lit with pure, unburdened joy. He thought of Sarah and knew she would have wanted this, not the money, but the safety, the peace, the chance for him to use his strength for more than just daily endurance. He took a deep, shuddering breath, the weight on his shoulders shifting, not vanishing, but transforming into something he could finally carry. Yes, Jack said, his voice steady. Yes. The change wasn't overnight, but it was profound. The new job gave him purpose and time, precious, irreplaceable time with Liam. The shadow of debt evaporated. The scholarship trust was a lighthouse in the distance, guaranteeing a future he'd never dared dream of. And the Sarah Riley Community Center became his passion project, a living monument to love and second chances. He hadn't saved a billionaire's daughter for a reward. He'd done it because it was right. But in doing so, he had finally allowed the world, in the form of a grateful father, to step in and save him back. His act of kindness in the smoke and sparks had indeed changed everything forever. If you were moved by this story of selfless courage and transformative gratitude, please show your support for Kindness True Stories. Like this story, share it with someone who needs a reminder of hope. And subscribe to our channel for more real-life tales that showcase the incredible power of human kindness. Your support helps us find and share these lights in the darkness. Thank you for being part of our community.